Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Africa podcast. My name is Wangeshika Remy.
My name is Anyona Bulungu.
And today we're having an interesting conversation. We're talking about the access to justice. Okay, so we are bringing the conversation about the conversations about the rule of law.
Yeah.
Getting arrested and all of that and all of that. And in this conversation, Anyona will be our voice of expert. She will be telling us.
Guys, I just got thrown under the bus.
Just like that.
Not part of the agreement.
Just like that. I removed myself from the picture and just like that, you took over.
I've been thrown under the bus, guys.
All right. So do not forget to follow us on our social media platforms. Speak Up Africa, Africa with a K. As Anyona says,
K is always constant.
the K is always constant. Check us out on our website as well, www.speakupafrica.net. Again,
K is always constant.
and just like that, we begin. Access to justice.
Yeah.
Take us on.
So before we get into so many blah, 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 like very wordy stuff, I'd like to tell you a story that happened.
Yeah, nice way to start a
today
conversation.
Morning. So I left the house. First of all, I was late. So I get to the stage and I get into the matatu, and the guy looks like he's in a hurry, like for days, you know. So first of all, he heads to a filling station. Do you know I'm seated next to the driver? Like, okay, not like the way a small matatu, like a van, has three people, like the driver and two co-drivers. So the one who's closest to the door, in the extreme left, yeah. So he heads to a filling station first, and then he just leaves with the wrong side. No problem. He's in a hurry. In fact, a police officer was standing over there, and then he's like, so us guys are like, Kwani, you're not even scared
You
of the
don't see
police?
the traffic
He's
police,
like, oh
yeah.
no, he has a black beret. You know, this made me wonder. I didn't even know there's a difference. Like for some traffic offenses, you can't be arrested by a police officer who has a different type of beret. I don't know how the drivers know.
No, I didn't even know that. I thought
Me
everybody can
neither.
arrest
He was just like,
you.
nothing. And he didn't do anything, right?
Uh-huh.
So now, it's the morning. It's rush hour. Everyone is trying to get to work, to get to school, blah, blah, blah.
So there's traffic.
There's a lot of traffic.
Uh-huh,
Yeah. You read my mind. So then the driver decides, I will cheat traffic today.
Uh-huh.
So,
Good morning.
yeah. So is it 4 lanes?
Uh-huh.
So all of them are full.
Yes.
Packed. Like it's almost
Traffic,
standstill.
typical traffic in Nairobi, yes.
So you know that there's usually that small space between the last line, the last white continuous line, and then space in between that line and the barrier. So he decides, you know what, this is my road. So this is where I'll drive from. So when he's switching to that lane, another driver in front of him as well with a personal vehicle also decides to make that decision, that unwise decision. And then the guy is driving. Yeah, like
Driving.
full speed. As though he's on the right place, right?
Okay.
So then police officers just saw him. They're waiting for him.
With the same beret, a different one.
Different ones.
Okay.
That when we left Timuko kwa filling station.
Okay, so now we're to the important ones that can actually
The
arrest
ones that
him.
have a white cap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So they're just like, come, like, come, baby, come, like they were waiting for him. So then they arrested us basically today morning. This very interesting story ended with an arrest. Yeah. So I'm seated up for the last seat.
Okay.
So they just come.
I'm
No,
waiting for
shuka
you to
madam,
clarify
shuka madam,
how
shuka
you were
madam.
arrested.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
the
not
vehicle,
me.
the driver.
Squeeze at the back. We're going to the police station. I'm like. So then they left.
You had to move.
Yeah, I had to move for the police officer to see it.
Uh-huh.
So I got squeezed. I'm not happy with it. But then, I mean, they were kind enough to say, okay, go drop everyone in town so they can go to their workplaces, and then we are going with you to the station. But my moral of the story, there were 2 drivers who are committing an offense, a traffic offense, both of them, but only one was arrested.
The driver of the PSV.
Yeah.
Some
Because the other
might
one is a
argue-
personal vehicle.
Some might argue because this one is risking the life of, many people. He's a public service driver.
So a personal vehicle doesn't... No, the problem is not even the risking of the life.
The problem is the traffic offense that was actually committed. And both of them committed
The police
this
officers,
offense.
by the way, came and asked him, so did you go to driving school? You don't know what I'm asking you, what's the meaning of a continuous white line?
You cannot overtake, I think.
So my point is, the police officers were nice enough to tell him what he's done wrong, even though he knows what he's done. But while doing that, they picked a favorite and just let him go scot-free, and then arrested the other guy. So I'm coming down to the point that in most situations,
All right.
our legal system is not fair
Yeah,
after
it's
all.
favorable. There are those that are taken and there are those that are not taken.
The-
I see your
literally,
point.
the driver even asked the police officers, "Why are you not arresting the other guy?"
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
They didn't answer him. They just chose to stick to the fact that, did you go to a driving school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, down to the point. So when I was getting to the point where when you're arrested, you have rights,
Yes.
even if you've committed
You've actually
ooh,
committed the offense.
you've committed
you
an
have rights.
offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have rights, and
Mhm.
you need to know. And part of the rights is that you need to know what you've done.
Yes, yes. And you need to be informed when you're
You
getting
need to be
arrested.
you need to be
in a language that you
informed.
can understand.
True. Hey, girl has been perusing the Constitution.
Yes, you cannot be the voice of expert alone. I have to shine.
No, you're right. You need to be told your rights in a language you understand.
Mhm.
You need to be, and your rights are not just only, to be told what you've done. You also need to be told that you have to remain silent. The things you say, can be used against you.
Mhm.
And the whole point is that you should not implicate yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm getting down to the point where like in East Africa, there are so many situations where we know people are arrested and they have no understanding of their rights, and because they have no understanding, their rights are trampled on.
I think let's just take this back to the audience. Let me ask the question of how many people have you seen getting arrested, and have you had their rights read to them? The right of
In movies, we have
in movies it happens. Actually, in movies it happens more often than
all the
not.
time.
But I don't really think it happens every other day. When the driver was
Confirmed.
arrested, was he read for his rights? Was he told he has the right to remain silent?
He was there. Hey, for lack of a better way to express it, he was there rushing mudomo.
Okay, this is a
He was
different
running his
situation.
mouth.
But in most cases than not, the
Yeah.
the arrest is not always followed by the reading of the rights.
It's not.
Yeah, so it's important for us to actually put it out there that you need to actually understand what you're getting arrested for, understand that you need to remain silent, and understand the consequences of not remaining silent.
Yeah.
And those should be informed to you by the person conducting that arrest in a language that you understand.
Yeah.
That is the first right of an arrested person.
Mhm.
So,
I mean, you see, even when you're being arrested, you're supposed to, depending on the situation,
Mm.
you need to, the policemen need to have a warrant. But people, they just walk up to you and they're like, unajua madam umeshikwa. Like,
And
you,
then
you
they
don't
start asking
understand.
you, unajua umefanya nini?
Yeah.
I had a...
No, but I hear Tanzanian policemen are kind when they're making arrests. I think I think it's probably
Sure
just a
it's not
story
a
we're being told. Yeah,
story?
yeah, I think it's just a
Because
story we're
when
being
I
told.
had it read something like, naomba nikushike.
Yeah, like,
And that sounded quite wrong because I am Kenyan and they don't even ask you. They come and find you and then they're
ask
like,
you
"Oh,
for what?
it's
For
not you, I'm
why?
sorry."
Why would we?
Mhm.
Like they wouldn't. Okay, but let me continue. When people are arrested after they've been arrested, they're taken into custody.
Yeah.
Again, people don't get maximum execution of justice because they don't know
They
their
don't
rights.
know their
Again,
rights, yeah.
like even if you've committed an offense, right? You are still a citizen with dignity, with rights, and for example, like a simple thing would be that most people don't afford lawyers. I'm talking about young people.
Yeah.
Because brokenness, they don't afford lawyers. So in fact, that's something you're supposed to be told when you're being arrested, that you're allowed, to you can get a lawyer if you don't afford one.
One would be up.
Afforded for you.
Yes, watching movies is getting me somewhere, huh?
Too many movies.
Too many.
Yes, but this is the thing. First of all, those pro bono lawyers, of course, they're paid by the state, just not so those pro bono lawyers have a lot of work. And then do you know what's running in your mind? If I was representing a client who's actually paying me, they'd pay me so much money. Yeah. So these people are overworked. So they have no time for your case.
Do you by any chance know how much they're paid for a case?
No.
But
I would never do pro bono work.
And this is the lawyer we're looking forward to.
No,
you would never do pro bono work.
Why?
And you make up like
unless I'm representing a child, like like human rights. When it comes to that department, fine. But all the same.
pro bono rights is where you pro bono
And not just
work
I'm not
is where
talking
you draw
about
the line.
I'm not just talking about in anything to do with law.
Mm.
Anything. You're paying me for my services.
Okay.
Yes. You
So then it is important to put forward that these state paid lawyers actually do not have the kind of enthusiasm to actually defend the people.
But would you?
I don't think I would.
You wouldn't.
Because number one, you like you mentioned, I think
Unless
they're
it's
overworked
something
because there are a
personal.
lot of people who cannot afford lawyers.
Mhm.
Number one. Number two, there's a lot of pressure
Mhm.
from, like most of the time when you can't afford a lawyer, the person that is prosecuting you can. So there's a lot of pressure from
And then
the other side.
it's almost like a conflict of interest because they're both working for the state.
yes, yes.
The
The
prosecution
prosecutor and the one that is defending you, yes.
Yeah.
And they all want these cases to go down. They just want them done. We
Mm.
want to tick a box. We say this case is done and done away with. So most of them are not, they take the shortcut. So if you're the only suspect in a case, you're most likely to be the one that is going to get convicted. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is
If you wait,
if you're the
only suspect in the case.
are you likely to get convicted?
No, your conviction depends on the facts at hand.
Mhm.
The nature of the case is what will determine how. Whether if you did a crime, you did a crime. If there's something we say, if you committed the crime, you must serve the time. Period.
Okay.
But let me get to something else. We've all heard this statement, and this is why people are being. That's what part of the reason why people are being read for their rights. We've all had the statement. The law is very clear. Now the law is not very clear because if it were, it would have been very simple. Someone did a crime, they could be easily convicted. If someone has I don't know, whatever kind of case, whatever kind of all these legal documents that people need to process and all of things would have been easy, is what I'm saying. But things are not. So clearly, it's not very clear.
It's not. It's vague.
It's not.
It's in a gray area.
There's so many aspects that need to be questioned. Yeah, but we're not getting into that today. I want to get to the point of, you see, where we're talking about people who are not financially able to be able to afford a lawyer or to even be at a position where they are predisposed to information in the legal space. I want to address this other group of people called politicians and famous people and wealthy people, people who can buy themselves out of a situation, because it happens a lot. Let's just call the spade a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah. So we've all had situations, and in East Africa, that, like, we all know that one case where someone killed someone did something, but nothing has ever been done. Or you find someone the other person who was affected by the actions of this person mysteriously now from nowhere wants this case to be withdrawn, doesn't want anything to, And I want us to address that statement where we say no one is above the law. So then why is it that when some people commit crimes, they just walk scot-free? We all know some politicians, we're not going to name names, but we all know politicians here and there who did something, but they're just walking scot-free. They're being allowed to vie. They're being allowed to rule people, but they have cases hanging over their shoulders.
Can we go back to the question of circumstantial evidence? Do we have 100% evidence that this person did this thing? Okay, and then now we come to the point that you mentioned, that all of a sudden the victim wants the case to disappear. The victim doesn't want to be involved anymore. So there's always a lot of questions when it comes to the conversation of the rule of law. Is there anyone that is above the law?
There's no one who's supposed to be above the law.
And
I just said supposed because there's people who like to carry themselves as though they are
above the law, and yet they're not above the law.
And
it's not limited to politicians. I think it is a lot of people. It goes down to the small basics.
It's money.
Even in your local area, something happens. I was listening to one of these radio stations the other day, and someone was saying that this gentleman impregnated an 11-year-old child twice. The first one.
What?
Yes. The first one, they had an abortion. And then the second one, she actually gave birth and then the baby died. So twice. And this thing was taken to court. And the court case went on for a while until this man was able to pay the mother. So I think it happens it's how do we
Which
translate
country is this?
this country. It was in one of the Luya lands. I don't want to say, but it was over a call, so I can't. It's
My
not for
country
the people. It's not our people I'm trying to target. But by the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's a question of, is anyone above the law? Happens a lot
No
in
one
our
is.
politics, in
But
our
I don't know why
elections.
people always feel inferior to the point where they feel like, it's okay. For example, in families,
Mhm.
it's like, no, forgive them. That's your, that's your cousin.
That's your
You don't want
uncle.
your I don't know who to curse you. You don't like. Please, come on. What's all this naivety?
I think it's because I mean,
No, that case of a child is
Mhm.
really
it's annoying.
bothering
It's
me.
annoying.
It's annoying me so much.
It's annoying. It gets to you and you're like, what? An
What do you
11-year-old child is
mean?
immature.
So did anyone know the first time it happened?
Yes, everyone knew. As a matter of fact, this gentleman was married to the sister, the elder sister. And then he started.
Please tell me she divorced him.
She did. At least we can say she did. But the thing is, the annoying thing is, how do you do that to a family member and then the mother is paid and the mother keeps quiet?
Oh my blood is boiling.
Okay, so there's that case. There are so many cases where the rule of law is questioned because we do not understand what our rights are. That young child, the mother did not understand what can the law protect
everyone
us.
failed her.
Everyone-
her own
everyone-
mother failed her.
Everyone-
Yeah, her mother failed her because
Everyone, the society, the sister, even though she divorced this gentleman,
Yeah.
failed her. They should have pushed. They should have
the
pushed
first
it.
time it happened, it shouldn't have happened the second time.
So today the discussion is about access to justice.
Yeah.
Do we feel
She didn't get the
protected by
justice
the
she
law?
deserves.
Do we
She
feel-
deserves. Oh
Do
my
we
gosh,
feel
I can't
protected by
speak
the
today.
law, Anyona?
Everybody should essentially be protected by the law.
Essentially, the
But-
Constitution states that. But
Yes.
is it really what happens in the ground?
So when we come down to the ground,
Mhm.
I just want to take the bull by its horns and say that no, it does not protect everybody, because a very good example is what you just said. That would not have happened. We wouldn't have had so many cold cases or cases taking 18 years to come to an end. You know what I mean? Not everyone, especially when it's in situations where you are involved with a party that has a financial muscle that you don't, or has influence, or knows somebody who knows somebody. The truth is that you're not going to get the justice that you deserve.
But let's say, do you think some people actually fear approaching the law because they do not want?
Because of how lengthy the process is. That's one of the reasons.
how
Someone will
lengthy
tell
is
you,
it?
let him
I
just
don't know
pay
how lengthy
me.
it is. How lengthy is it?
Cases take forever. Cases take so long.
So we can actually put a blame on our judiciary system. So there's something wrong with the system.
No, you see, they're taking so long. Sometimes it's not because the judiciary is doing ABCD. Sometimes it just involves the parties. If during this hearing, this and this party does not show up in court, it has to be adjourned. If such and such evidence is being waited for, you can't proceed without that. They're taking so much time is not entirely on our court system, and it's just too many factors. Yeah. Too many factors. You find that this witness that was supposed to come did not come. They have to wait for them because they are a star witness in this case. It's just so much. The process is dragged a lot.
All right. I think let's just do this. If you are to recommend, what would you recommend?
How to recommend when it comes to what?
When it comes to how the court handles the cases, when it comes to advising people on dealing with the rule of law and things like that. Like if you were just to do a kind of recommendation package, what would you tell them?
Okay. So first of all, when it comes to the judicial system, like you're talking about, I think what can be done is not just entirely on the jury. Of course, I understand it's an independent whole
Body and all of that.
Yes. But what I think is, for example, in cases, sometimes you need expert opinions. You're waiting for an autopsy somewhere. You're waiting for a medical report. You're waiting for an interpreter for someone. You have someone you're one of the parties does not understand English or Swahili, or they're probably not even Kenyan. They have to wait for a certain translator coming from I don't know where. You see, so I think the process could be shorter. All these things should just be dealt with one way or another. The process could definitely be shorter. But what I think is young people need to understand better their rights.
Yeah.
The challenge is the how, because they can't understand it. They can't understand them by themselves. But you also need to make a point. Sometimes there's all these farms and legal institutions that offer, you talk about your rights, talk about awareness when it comes to law. You find all these human rights commissions. They like to educate people when it comes to these things. So people need to make a point of understanding. But I genuinely think that even the police force something needs to be done in there with the whole process and how they handle situations. Something needs to be done.
We need to call out for people to actually take the time to understand their rights.
Everybody
To
needs
take the time.
everybody.
To understand
But let me
their
tell you,
rights.
once you understand your rights, you have leverage, because you won't be told things that don't make sense. If I don't know how to put this, but you will know when someone is
Pulling
playing
your
you.
leg
Yeah, when
down.
someone is pulling your leg, you'll know it.
You'll know it.
Mm.
All right. So, what are some of the rights of an arrested person, away from the one that we actually mentioned initially? The ones that you need to be informed of your crime, to be informed of the fact that you need to be silent,
Yeah.
and the consequences of remaining silent.
Mm.
Once you get to the police station, now what happens from there? And how about you just like educate us and tell us what are some of the
You
rights?
need to be arraigned in court in less than 24 hours, as long as it's
that's
a
why,
court working day. You need to be separated from people who've already been convicted. You need to be held completely different. You need to be treated with dignity. That's an inherent right. Yeah, you need to be treated with dignity. You need to, when you're going through, during the first court appearance, you need to be told your rights in a language you understand. Yeah, proceedings should not happen without you, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of those things are actually important. Let me ask, what happens if they don't happen
So what? Now again,
in real world, and then what is in
Yeah.
the books? Okay, so there's what is written and what is what.
things on the ground. So first of all, actually, there's some of these basic things that always actually happen. The chance of them not happening is very slim. Things like making sure you're present in court. If you're not, the case will just be adjourned. Nothing is going to really happen. Things like people are separated. They're not held in custody with people who've already been convicted. But in the event that a good one that would fail to happen, probably more often than not as compared to the others, would be the one where you're supposed to be you're supposed to be arraigned in court at least, within 24 hours.
Yeah.
That one fails to happen.
More
But let's
often
just
than
be honest. Those people never get anything if nothing's ever done if that failed to happen. Yeah.
And if we were to point a blame on the 24 hours, would we blame the court or the police people or all? Because it's not the victim's fault. I mean, you were there, ready to be taken to court.
I'm trying to find who to point a finger at, because sometimes there's enough cases in their hands. But we also have a number of courts. But you see, every day already has several hearings to happen during the day. So I don't know if that usually is a factor, that because the first mention, really there's not, it's just you taking a plea, being read for your your offense, what you've done in a language you understand, and you're asked to take a plea. If it's, for example, if it's a criminal offense, it's just you taking a plea, like, yes, I did it. Yes, I didn't.
Yeah, she's just actually saying,
are you accepting? Yeah,
or not.
Or denying, and then the whole process now begins.
I am for the idea
Yeah,
that our
but
judiciary is short-handed.
I think it is.
I am for
think
the
it
idea that I feel like it could be a bit double, triple, because it's almost impossible to tell someone to take someone to court and the judge is not there because the judge is busy with other cases. Is it the judge?
No,
The
but
magistrate?
it depends on the level of court. But it's most likely to be a magistrate.
Oh, okay. What's the difference?
The lower courts have magistrates. Then high courts, they have judges.
Okay,
Supreme
so if
Court
you're
has
going
a
to
judge,
be
a court of
arrested
appeal,
to
and-
take a plea, if you're going to go to court for after 24 hours to take a plea, you're supposed to go to the magistrate.
So, sometimes there's a case that will just be heard as from the high court, depending on the nature of the case. Yeah, but most likely when you're arrested in a day-to-day activities, you're just most likely going before a magistrate. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's just, as we wind up, take a different direction.
Mm.
Let's talk about freedom of expression in East Africa. Do you think that's something that we can? It's a
That's something that's very much on paper. That's
Uh-huh.
something that I can say has come a long way.
yes,
Like,
definitely.
in fact, Africa at large, we've come from so far. There were times when you
Tumeko
couldn't
mbali.
talk about some things,
Yeah,
but we have not gotten to the where we need to be. Like, it's not fully exercised. It's not all right that it's fully exercised. There's things when you say, people that when you touch with your words, you're definitely going to be arrested, or something is going to happen locally. Like, you find all of a sudden, so this person was shot dead.
all of a sudden his body's in Yala.
No one can explain it.
No one knows. Like
No
the
one
election
knows.
officers that went down after the Kenyan elections.
Yeah.
No one can actually attest for them. No one can speak and say this happened to them. This person did this to them. People just have rumors going around, and no one can actually provide that circumstantial evidence that you need in
In
court.
Uganda, opposition leaders are arrested every other
There
day.
now it's another story.
Yeah, every other day. Like, it's not a right that is fully fledged.
It's not.
But is it in writing? It is. It very much is.
Nicely.
Yeah. But we have come from far.
Yeah,
We
I
have
can
come from
confidently
far.
say we've come from far. When you compare it to the Moi era, and I say this, at that time you wouldn't confidently say something, but I feel at this point in time we have gone an extra mile, and you can actually take the president to court. I had President Ruto of Kenya the other day saying, actually take me to court if you disagree with what I'm saying, and it has been seen. We have seen them actually being taken to court. We've seen initiatives like the BBI that was by the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, and his ally Raila. That initiative was taken to court and it was done away with, not once, twice. So we have seen progress, but it is important to actually note that things that are happening behind the scenes, that's a different story.
That's a
itself.
different story.
Because the things that are happening behind the scenes are actually sad. The
Yeah.
bodies in Yala, the shots, the
People are
threatenings.
killed, and then people are killed, and then they never find justice. That should be unheard of. How many people have died, have been killed,
So many.
and nothing will be done about
We
it?
have lives threatened. We have lives of even politicians.
Police
holding political
officers will even
circles.
tell you, madam, just take that. This will be dragged on for so long. Just take that small thing that I'm trying
Kubali
to
tu
give you.
hiyo, because you
Yeah.
end up mbele, that conversation should be done away with. We should actually not be afraid to actually seek justice.
Yeah.
Our access to justice should not be inhibited by all of these things, the corruptions, the political powers, the money and things like that. We should not have our hands glistened when we actually want to seek justice.
Yeah.
It is important to know that.
I mean, if politicians, leaders are comfortable grabbing public land, like from schools and just things that are meant for the public, then we still have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But it is important
But
to
it's
notice
still-
progress.
we can still
Tumetoka
appreciate
mbali.
that there has been progress. Now, we really wanted to keep this conversation narrow because if we start talking about justice as a whole, it's a very broad topic, and we tried to make you understand, use the layman language, and avoid legal terms and and articles and all those things, things that we can probably cite when it comes to the law. So, like I said, we wanted to keep this conversation really narrow. But if you want a more personal relationship, more personal conversation with us, make sure to check out our website, www.speakupafrica.net. Africa is with a K. K is always constant. Same thing applies on our social media platforms across all of them. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn at Speak Up Africa. K is
Africa with a K.
constant.
Africa with
Yeah.
a K. And
Yeah.
don't forget to actually get the information that you need about your rights. The only way you can access to justice is if you know what justice actually means.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid. If it's not the courts, the government, there are other means. There are other non-governmental organizations that you can approach. Just find the right information. And I think with that, we culminate our episode for today. My name is Wangeshi Keremi.
My name is Anyona Bulungu, and see you in another episode of a Speak Up Africa podcast. And if you're watching this before the end of 2022, well, Happy New Year as you wait for 2023.